We want to thank our amazing sponsor, the rope drop queen herself, Michelle McKnight. She is a destination specialist with TouringPlans and can help you plan an amazing vacation. Whether it's Disney, Universal, a cruise, or an all-inclusive, she can help you with booking, planning, and strategizing to help you have an incredible experience at a great rate. Contact her today at michelle@touringplans.com. Now, on to the show.
Helping you navigate the Disney parks.
With the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world.
You're listening to Rope Drop Radio.
Welcome to another Rope Drop Radio. Derek and Doug talking all things Disney. And Doug, we are finally going to talk about the news, everything that you have been asking us to discuss. We have a very special guest joining us, Doug, but this is a good one.
Yeah, it's all about the Genie, Genie Plus,
Genie of the Lamp,
lanes, Genie of the Lamp, I Dream of Genie, and any other Genie-related thing.
So
stop.
It is, but everyone's been asking us to talk about it, and we needed an expert, so we'll be bringing him on here in a second. But first, Doug, we have some reviews we need to get to. We're running a little low, though.
Yeah, we need some more review, guys. Otherwise, I'm just going to make them up, and then that's not going to be good at all. All right.
Does that mean we get like fake iTunes or Apple Podcasts?
I don't know.
Accounts?
I haven't. That sounds like way too much work for us,
That's
though.
true.
We would never. Don't worry, folks. We are not going to make fake reviews because we're way too lazy for that. All right. Helpful, Funny, and Honest by Yogurt Chick. Doug and Derek give their honest opinions on the ins and outs of the Disney parks. I find myself laughing and taking notes as I listen and plan my next trip. The reviews and tips are helpful to new and returning Disney travelers. Been a listener since near the beginning and now a Patreon supporter as well. Keep up the great work, guys.
Thank you. And thank you for being a Patreon and supporting the show. And this week we have one of the best Patreon shows for me. I'm excited. We've already recorded it beforehand because it's that good. So if you want to hear it, you're going to have to go into our show notes and subscribe. But it is, we'll just say it's Star Wars related, Doug.
Yep, we discussed things with our guest today about the Star Wars resort.
Well, joining us now to discuss more of what's coming up with Disney Genie and all the things, we welcome back the master of TouringPlans, co-author of the Unofficial Guide, and of course, co-host of the Disney Dish podcast. Welcome, Len Testa.
How's it going?
Great. Thanks for joining us. We're very excited to have the chance to talk to you in light of the recent announcements of the Genie and all the other kinds of options that come with it. So Fast Pass is dead and gone. Yep. Let's start with the basics. What is Disney Genie service?
So Genie encompasses a couple of things. One part of it is essentially paid Fast Pass, right? Where it'll function sort of like Max Pass did at Disneyland. You pay a certain fee per day. I believe it's $15 for Walt Disney World. And you'll be able to get, I think, the next available Fast Pass at certain attractions in a park. And that's Genie Plus. The Fast Pass lines have been renamed Lightning Lane. And I think it's a little bit confusing because they could have just called the whole thing Lightning Lane, and that would have been slightly less confusing.
I mean, that's why we're having you on the show. I've been confused the whole time. It's just there are all sorts of announcements and prices. So, yeah, it's crazy what Disney is doing.
Yes, that's the weird thing. They could have just called it Lightning Lane. We knew they weren't going to call it Fast Pass because everybody associates Fast Pass with being free. So since they're charging money for it, we're never going to use the same name for a paid product as they did for free. So that's that. A couple of things we don't know yet. We don't know which attractions are going to be available using Genie Plus. We also don't, I think, know what the rules are around how many Fast Passes you can hold at a given time. We do know that one of the big differences is that you'll make reservations day of, not 60 days in advance like you do with FastPass Plus. The other interesting thing is there's this thing that in addition to in addition to, I'm going to say that.
Everyone's going to mess that up. Yep.
In addition to Lightning Lane, there's this thing called individual attraction selections, which again, I can't believe that there's not a catchy name for that. But it's I've heard 1 or 2 attractions per park where there's still a fast pass-like thing, but this one is not included with your $15 Genie Plus purchase. So there'll be one or two attractions per park where you have to pay another per person, per attraction, per day fee to board that. And I think it's going to be like Rise of the Resistance and Slinky Dog Dash in the studios, for example, where you'll be able to, if you didn't get a boarding group for Rise of the Resistance, you'll be able to pay to get on as well. So those are the two big basics there for Fast Pass.
So what about, they keep marketing like just the Genie service as a thing that's free. What is that even trying to do? And does that replace something that's exists already, or is it something totally separate?
So Genie looks like it is a way to organize your day. When it was
They should probably call it TouringPlans. Just throwing that out there.
If you saw the video that announced the Genie service, the first question that I had was, how many times did they have to tell these people not to call them TouringPlans?
Exactly.
God.
Royalties, I feel like, are deserved somewhere.
Yeah. So there's a lot we don't know about it. When it was originally announced, there was a lot of talk about it being like basically a planning service like TouringPlans, where you tell it the ride you want to ride, and it tells you the order in which you should ride the rides to minimize your wait in line. But since then, they seem to have backed away from any sort of claims about minimizing your waits in line. So if you read very carefully what Genie is supposed to do, there's no mention anymore of minimizing your wait in line. Like it says things like maximize your fun.
Ooh.
But
oh wow.
What does that even mean, right? Or optimize your day. Like what? It's there are enough words in there that make it sound interesting without having to get lawyers involved to say, this is what we were really intending. So at this point, it's difficult to say what Genie is actually supposed to do. Like, I get the idea that you're supposed to be able to pick a set of attractions, and it's supposed to organize your day somehow into something better than what you can do yourself. But super vague on what all of that is right now. There's another question I have is that whether Genie works with Genie Plus. Like let's say you buy the Genie Plus, Lightning Lane access for $15 a day. Theoretically, Disney should know that you've done that, right? Because you've given it money.
Yeah.
Right. So will Genie look at all of the different Lightning Lane passes available and tell you which one to get next to minimize your overall wait in line throughout the day? Like that seems like that's a reasonable request, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Makes
Makes sense.
Disney knows everything, right? It knows that I bought this. It knows, and it can forecast these things out. It should tell me okay, based on the 8 attractions that you've selected, you should go pick up a Genie Plus Fast Pass for Big Thunder Mountain now, because that's going to minimize your wait in line. Right, but there's nothing I've read says that that's part of the feature, so I don't know yet how that's all supposed to work. Right, there's just a lot we don't know about this yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where we're at with that. I think with Genie, like with everything other than Genie, with everything other than the itinerary trip planning thing, it's basically paid Fast Pass with some restrictions, right? It's the Genie stuff that we don't know yet.
So do you feel like this is becoming a money grab with Disney trying to make some extra cash right now off the backs of everyone else?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no other way to think about it. If you think about all the stuff that's happened over the last year, really since the beginning of the year, in January, Disney announced that they weren't going to continue Magical Express beyond 2021, right? So when Mears Connect announced its pricing, we knew that for most people, the value of Magical Express or the extra that they're going to have to pay in 2022 is around $120 for a family of 4 round trip. Right, so that's $120 right there. Magic Band's no longer included with your trip. I mean, if you've been to Walt Disney World in the last 10 years, you have a Magic Band. It probably still works, but still, it's $5 to $14 per person. or per thing. And then now this fast pass is the next thing, right? Fast pass, if you're going to buy $15 for a family of 4, and you're there for 5 days, that's 75. That's $60 times 5. It's another $300, right? Add in the Magical Express, you're at $400 extra, right? That's a lot of extra money that you weren't paying in 2020 that you will pay in 2022. And that's exclusive from the increases in hotel fees or hotel rates and ticket prices, right? Which the average ticket price has gone up since then as well. So that's the big concerning thing. The other thing that's moderately concerning is the fact that we all used to get evening extra magic hours. Now only deluxe resorts do. Yeah. And it looks like it's only 2 parks so far. It's only Magic Kingdom and Epcot, not Studios or Animal Kingdom. Now, Animal Kingdom hadn't had evening extra magic hours for a couple of years before that. But again, it's if you pay, you will have to pay more to get the same thing that you had before, right? In this case, you have to stay at a deluxe resort now.
That's crazy how much it's just mind blowing. I mean, we've been going to Disney since we were kids, and Len, I know you've gone and even longer. How do you feel? My big question with you being on is, how do you feel Walt would feel with all these changes? Is this something that the man himself would be all about?
I try and stay away from what would Walt think.
Okay.
Discussions. That's he died before I was born.
Who knows?
So that's tough to say.
Oh no, Michael Eisner. Then where are we?
Yeah, right. I joke about Eisner. I joke with Jim all the time about none of us knew at the time that Eisner was going to end up being the second best CEO this company's ever had, which is kind of funny. But Eisner gave us 2 new theme parks and a bunch of new resorts, and some of those resorts are classics like Wilderness Lodge, Animal Kingdom Lodge, right? Those are among the best designed Disney things, in Orlando. I don't know that the current management team has the physical and mental characteristics needed to create a resort like Wilderness Lodge. Like I don't think it's in their DNA to be able to do anything like that. So
yeah, I saw a meme.
And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I saw a meme the other day of if Space Mountain was created today, and it basically looked like the Guardians of the Galaxy building, with a Space Mountain sign in front of it, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at lately. It's the big box, put the attraction in it, and decorate the facade, because they did good with Galaxy's Edge, but they are still just big boxes that are decorated, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about like Grand Destino Tower or Riviera, I mean, I like the Riviera rooms. I think the restaurants are great. It's basically a box, right? It's a standard hotel design with a relatively straightforward lobby. You could, if you're in the lobby of one, how many? This is my big question, right? How many posters would you need to change to convert from one lobby to another, right? How many coats of paint and how many posters? And that's really it. Like, I don't care how many posters you put in the lobby of the Animal Kingdom Lodge. It will always be the Animal Kingdom Lodge, right? Yeah. But you could probably convince a whole bunch of people with the right set of wallpaper and paint that you're in the Grand Destino Tower versus the Riviera Resort, right? That's a pretty easy change to make. So there's that. Yeah.
Well, back to the Genie Plus. So it's $15 a day per person. Do you see the average vacationer purchasing this for length of stay? Do you see that going forward?
It's the big question. I think if you've never been to Disney before, you're going to be put off by the extra fee. Like it would take somebody telling you, yeah, this is worth the money, or no, it's not worth the money. Like I don't know that many people will understand what the upcharge gets them up front. And there's a huge communication effort that Disney is going to have to undertake here. And I got to say, they haven't done a great job thus far of explaining it. Like explaining to people that Genie Plus and Lightning Lane are essentially the same thing with the addition of individual attraction selections, which again, not the catchiest name in the world. That's going to be a barrier for Disney to get through. Because remember, like even at the end of FastPass Plus, right right before the pandemic shut Disney World down, I mean, how many people really understood how FastPass Plus worked among the average guest?
So many that never made a fourth FastPass.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time on the show. Yep.
Yeah. Or, how many of them didn't understand how it worked or didn't make any to begin with, or things like that. So, I mean, do you think 3/4 of the population really understood how FastPass worked?
I'm hoping at least 3/4 of our listeners understood how FastPass worked back then.
Yeah. I don't exactly. And this one, being more complicated and day of, without the ability to pick your return times. I think Disney just has a lot of communication work ahead of them. Because you think about it now, there's like 4 different ways you could wait in line, right? There's the traditional standby line, where you get in a line, you wait in line until it's time to ride, then you ride, right? But they've also got boarding groups, right? So Remy is going to be a boarding group when it opens. Rise of the Resistance, still going to be a boarding group, right? Then you've got Genie Plus, right, which is ride reservations, and you get the next available one. Then there's individual attraction selections, which is like Genie, but you get to pick the return window, right? That's a lot. 4 different ways to ride a ride.
And who knows what that makes the actual waiting in line times become.
Yeah, that's another big question I have. They in order to sell an individual attraction selection like Slinky Dog, right? So Slinky Dog's gonna have a standby queue. And it's also you'll also have the ability to buy a fast pass just for that one ride. But in order to make an informed decision about whether to buy a fast pass, the standby wait time is going to have to be very, very close to your actual wait in line, right? Disney can't sell you a fast pass for $20 saying that the standby line is an hour long if it knows the standby wait is really 15 minutes, right? Because people would make a different decision if the standby wait time was not the actual wait time, right? If you knew it was 15 minutes, you might not think that's worth saving. That saving 15 minutes is worth $20, right? So what I haven't yet seen from Disney is the ability to have the posted wait time be a really, really accurate reflection of your actual wait time, except in very rare cases. Like most attractions, they're off. I haven't seen Disney been able to do that consistently, and I think that's going to be a big challenge for them, because again, you can't sell fast passes that claim to save an hour in line if you know that it's only 15 minutes. That's going to be a big challenge for Disney. Yeah.
And even when they were doing the little red cards, I mean, essentially, if it says an hour, that means the wait was an hour ago.
An hour ago, right? Yeah.
It's historical data at that point. So.
And that's going to be the challenge, right? And again, I don't know. One of 2 things is going to happen with this, right? Either Disney's lawyers are going to have the world's longest disclaimer on this. Like literally, there could be a disclaimer when you buy an individual attraction fast pass.
It's going to take you a while to scroll through it to accept it. Absolutely.
Right, and it's going to say something like, "Look, we're claiming that the wait is an hour, but we could be completely wrong about this, and you're not going to sue us over it." Right? That could be the disclaimer. So I don't know how that's going to work yet. We'll see.
I could see the sales of the Genie Plus being similar to that of the dining plan, although what you're getting with dining plan. It's a lot more obvious. You're getting food, where the new consumer doesn't understand what a fast pass is. So you're talking about the communication barriers. But I think for the people that understand it, I think it will sell to the average family because it just makes sense to not wait in line with your children.
The big thing is the inability to pick your return times, right? Because at that point, you've got to do some figuring out about the order in which you should get the fast passes. So if you can only have one at a time, right, then imagine you're in the Magic Kingdom. It's like 11 o'clock in the morning, but it's a busy day like, Christmas or Easter or whatever. The next available Lightning Lane reservation for Big Thunder at 11 o'clock in the morning is 4 p.m. Is that good? Is that bad? Right? Like, how much time would I save getting that versus any other Lightning Lane reservation I could make right now? That's, for a lot of people, that's going to be sort of the difficult thing. They could just, I mean, one strategy could just be, get the next available Lightning Lane for an attraction that you want to ride. I don't know how that would work out. There's just a lot of thinking involved in it now.
Yeah, Disneyland, it's almost a game with Max Pass when I've been out there. It's just like, how many can I get in a day? Just always the next available one. So.
And then I've heard that there might be limits so like for the individual attraction selection, you're limited to 2 per day. I don't know what the limit's going to be for Lightning Lane. Like even something simple, like, can I re-ride something with Lightning Lane? Can I get 2 Buzz Lightyear Fast Passes?
Just over and over,
yeah. So I'm not sure. A lot of this stuff still has to be determined. And in fact, it's almost like there are at least as many questions about how it's all going to work in terms of detail. Like, my question was, after the announcement came out, last week, my question was, with all the things we don't know, with all the things that weren't announced, with all the details to come later, why announce it now?
Exactly. To stir up Twitter.
Yeah, like what was the benefit in announcing it last week when we don't know when it's going to start. We don't know exactly how it's going to work. We're not even sure which attractions are going to be in it, right? Because Disney hasn't announced it yet. So we don't know the who, we don't know the what, we don't know the where, we don't know the when. The only thing we really know is the why, and that's because it's Disney's going to make more money on it. Like, what? Why announce it now? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm thankful for it because I'm finishing up the Unofficial Guide 2022 version, and it needed to be in there, right? So that was good. Yeah, but like, what exactly do we know about any of this, other than the fact it's going to cost money?
And cause some headaches to some agents with you as well, who I'm sure are going to get a lot of questions.
Who have to explain it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know Michelle's already gotten calls with people that want to sit down and talk about it, and she's like, "There's nothing to talk about yet.
Don't know yet. Yeah.
Don't know. Like, how don't you know? Because we don't know." It's
all still theoretical. I mean, hopefully we'll get some of that ironed out in the next couple of weeks. The thing with Remy and Rise still having boarding groups, I think, is going to be frustrating for a lot of people because if you can't get a boarding group in the morning for Rise, your only other option to ride it is going to be for pay instead of waiting in line. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be like, look, I'd rather wait in a 3-hour line because I'm on vacation than pay $25, right? And there's no option for that to happen for those people, right? It's either boarding group or pay. And I think that, like I said, I think that's gonna be frustrating for a lot of people.
That attraction, especially, will be because it breaks down every now and then too, as we know.
Yes, the other thing, like around Rise too, and this hasn't been discussed, and I've asked Disney this question, 16 different ways, but it's like, okay, I pay my $25 or whatever to go on Rise, and for whatever reason, some of the effects don't work. I don't get all the pre-show scenes, right? If you think of like the 4 elements of Rise, right? Rey, the troop transport, the hangar, being in the interrogation chamber, and then the ride itself, right? So if you think about those parts of it, what if how many of those parts can be broken before Disney gives you a refund on your $25? Or is $25 literally just to skip the line? And is that what the disclaimer is going to say?
Yeah.
Is the disclaimer going to say, look, we're not guaranteeing that anything in this ride is working. This is literally just to get in the line.
And I know all of us have been kicked out of that ride before with it shutting down. So you pay that money and you get kicked out. You want to be able to get back on again.
Dumped from the queue of Rise of the Resistance. Have you really even been to Walt Disney World?
That's the free space on bingo. That's
exactly.
Free space.
That's the middle of the bingo card right there. I mean, come on.
Dumped from Rise queue.
Yeah. So that's the big question that I've. There's just so much we don't know about this. I mean, I get how it's supposed to work in theory, but there are so many rules that still have to be defined before we know how it's all going to work, and that's sort of the big sort of frustrating thing with that.
Do you think the day of aspect of booking it is from guest satisfaction because people don't like planning months in advance for where exactly they're going to be at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday?
Yeah, this is the thing. This is the thing that, man, I would just love to sit down with somebody from Disney and ask these questions, right? Because it's like, 16, 17 months ago, it was, the marketing material was, FastPass Plus is the greatest thing ever because it allows you to plan to reserve, your certain rides up to 60 days in advance. But today it's like, oh, who the hell would ever want to do that? That's crazy. Like that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Like what was right about it 18 months ago that's not right now?
We
Like
can make more money off of it.
I think that's it. The on the one hand, the ability to make a FastPass reservation in advance was great because you didn't have to get up morning of, right?
Yep.
And a lot of people don't want to, spend $10,000 on their Grand Floridian hotel room and then have to get up super early in the morning to make ride reservations, right? It's just not a vacation. And so Disney here seems to be saying that will be part of your vacation. Like you're going to have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and make Rise of the Resistance boarding group attempts and also choose your fast pass, initial set of fast passes for the. That's the other weird thing, right? Have you guys noticed that you can make Lightning Lane reservations starting at 7 a.m., but also you have to do your boarding groups at 7 a.m.? Like, so is this now a family activity?
It's got to be.
Two
it was
people
already
on one.
a family
It was.
activity
You're
for
right.
us.
Everyone's scrolling.
We got everybody on their phone making their boarding groups. So
my guess is one of those two things is going to change because nobody's thought that through yet. So one of those times is going to have to change. Like my guess will be, Lightning Lane will either be 6:30 or 6 or 7:30 or something. That they won't happen at the same time. But
I think you're giving them a little too much credit at the moment right now. I could totally see them doing it.
Well, no, it might be, and it's one of those things. Like my big gripe with a lot of this stuff is like nobody who works for Disney ever uses the things that they design. Right? So like, did the people who came up with this idea think through having to make a Rise of the Resistance boarding group request and try and get the best set of Lightning Lane options to begin with? Because you won't be able to do both at the same time, right? If they're both 7 a.m.
Yeah, and you definitely want your Lightning Lanes after the boarding group so that you can encourage people like, hey, you didn't get that? You can buy it now.
But yeah, spend some money.
Fair enough. But then you've lost out on the first set of Lightning Lane attractions, right? So now you're later in the day when you can use it, and they're farther away, right?
Or you're getting Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Right? Like what's left at Hollywood Studios, possibly.
So I saw in the lists that I've seen, and they're not official or anything like that, there are remarkably few shows.
Okay.
That'll be available. And I don't know if that's because the shows weren't currently running when the list came out, or Disney's finally admitting that you really don't need fast pass style accommodations at most shows most days, right? Like,
let's hope it's that.
Yeah, because that was the big deal with one of the big things with FastPass Plus that we would tell readers all the time. Like, you almost never need a fast pass for like Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular. Terrible waste of fast pass, right? Is the same sort of advice going to be given for Lightning Lane? Like, here are the attractions that you don't ever really need this for. I don't know. You'd expect Genie would do that, right?
You would think.
But
spend some money and you'll get a front row seat at any show.
Yeah, it's
you want Indiana Jones to come give you a high five? Here's an extra $10. Don't push it past him.
All right, then we'll see. That's very interesting.
Lightning Lane to be guaranteed to be the extra in the Indiana Jones.
Actually, there you go.
Yeah,
if someone's listening to this and taking notes, that's a problem right now.
It's challenging, right?
How will this impact the disability access?
That's another thing, right? So, so DAS is interesting in that it also got a change announced about the same time as Lightning Lane and Genie. And with DAS, there are a couple of changes that actually make it more beneficial than Genie or Genie Plus. The big change is that you'll be able to make, what is it, 2 selections in advance of your trip, and so up to 30 days in advance, you'll be able to pick 2 attractions to use to make DAS reservations for, and then day of you'll be able to make more as well. So one of the big changes with the Disability Access Service is that you'll be able to sign up 30 days in advance, and you'll be able to do that online, like through Zoom or whatever. So that's good. That's a new change. And then once you're admitted into the program, you'll use My Disney Experience to select 2 attractions in advance per day. And then during the day of your visit, it'll work pretty much like it has in the past. You show up at an attraction. If the wait is less than 15 minutes, they'll basically admit you in through the alternate access line. If it's greater than 15 minutes, they'll give you a return time that is roughly equivalent to the posted wait time minus, I believe, 15 minutes. So if the posted wait time is an hour, they'll tell you to come back 15 minutes less than that, which is 45 minutes.
Some good changes, right? Being able to do it in advance, that sort of stuff.
And you could see that Disney had already anticipated the abuse that DAS would get, because they said, if you're caught trying to game the system using DAS, you could be banned from the parks. You'll lose your passes and be banned from the park. And the reason is that that's a huge advantage, right? Being able to make 2 reservations in advance and basically use FastPass for free. They needed some way to up the ante to prevent people from abusing the system, because it's right with DAS, it's difficult. Disney can't ask you for a doctor's note to prove you have a condition, right? The Americans with Disabilities Act prevents that. But what they can do is make the consequences so great that if you're somehow shown not to have a disability, that you basically lose your theme park privileges for the rest of your life. I don't know that that's going to be enough for some people.
Yeah.
Because how do you prove you don't have a non-apparent disability?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't he really going to check that? Yeah.
It's pretty hard. You'd have to kind of turn yourself in with your social media posts, that sort of stuff, which will happen.
Be dumb, and it totally will.
I'm sure there'll be somebody who has who has made the example of, but yeah, it's going to be really difficult.
Someone's going to put it on TikTok or Reddit, and they'll find out.
Exactly. Yeah, I that's just, and the benefits are pretty substantial. I wouldn't be surprised to see some abuse of this. But again, what are you going to do? I mean, you can't. Yeah. So a lot of interesting stuff still needs to be sort of worked out.
I think one thing we didn't say is that Genie Plus, individual attraction access, all that stuff, it's still in the My Disney Experience app. This isn't a whole separate Genie app, correct?
Right, because the My Disney Experience app works so wonderful already. So.
Oh, come on, Derek. It's a dream.
I haven't. So I've been working on the book all week, and one of the things that I'm trying to do is compare what we have in the book regarding menus with what's online for Disney's menus. And I'm not exaggerating here. About half the time today, when I've been trying to pull up menus, I'll get some sort of error message on MDE, and I know it's some sort of like weird cookie configuration. Super frustrating, but hopefully the new stuff will work better.
All right, I got one question for you. This is Rope Drop Radio. How important is it, especially with all the changes and staying on property, is it going to be to rope dropped, be the first ones in the park?
I think it's going to be super important because of the early theme park entry program that resort guests get. So you get into the park 30 minutes early. And we've tested the impact of this on how long you're going to wait in line throughout the day. And the way that we did that was right now the theme parks are opening basically half an hour early. So it's easy enough to send somebody in to Animal Kingdom at 7:30 in the morning versus 8 o'clock, the official opening. And then give them the same set of attractions to visit and see how long it takes them. And the thing that we've seen is, even though we're not at full capacity at the theme parks, like we're not yet at 100% capacity, people who get into the park half an hour early end up waiting between 1 and 2 hours less in line per day than people who start at official opening. So if you're off-site By the time you're admitted into the park, you're going to have thousands of people in line ahead of you.
Yeah, that sounds pretty important.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one big thing. And then I don't think evening hours are going to be as critical because, let's say that the evening hours begin at Magic Kingdom at 9 p.m. Well, at 8:59 p.m., everybody who was in the park for the regular day guests are going to get in line for their last attraction. Mm-hmm. So the first hour the park is open for extended theme park hours is basically going to be getting through all the people who got in line right before the park closed. So it's really the second hour of extended theme park hours where it's going to be most valuable. But at that point, you have to ask yourself, like, am I paying for a deluxe resort just for that 1 hour, or should I just stay offsite and or at a value resort and maybe spend an extra day in the parks to try and catch up on everything that I'm missing in that 1 hour? Like, at some point, isn't the cheaper hotel room for more days get you more park time than the deluxe resort? Like,
well,
why would you?
Whenever I stay deluxe, I'm spending more money on this room and resort. I actually want to spend a little bit more time there.
Right. So next week I'm at the Poly in a bungalow, right?
You don't want to leave there.
No, I've said I'm literally not, like, I will order in food and everyone will come see me. I will not go see anyone, right? Like, why would I? Once I'm through that door, I'm not leaving until they kick me out. And I don't. So I would expect to see, like, more. I think I would rather stay at a value resort another day or two longer than a deluxe resort with the evening extended hours. Like, the value doesn't seem like it's there for me for that.
Yeah, just for the theme park bonus. I don't know that many deluxe guests care as much about that extra hour in the evening either. I just, like Derek said, you're there for the resort. You're enjoying the resort a little more.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we got yacht club. I'm going to the pool. I'm sorry.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I could see, like, in the summer, maybe the fall, the spring, when the weather's not too hot.
Yeah.
If the hours are like 9 to 11, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., 10 to midnight, you could do that, but you can't. You're not going to stay that late and then get up the next morning and do early theme park entry every day of your trip, because that's you're just not sleeping.
You probably shouldn't do that with kids either. Makes sense.
Obviously, haven't met my family.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. There's a rarity there, but
what's sleep at Disney?
You're not going to do Epcot from 11 to 1 or 10 to midnight, and then do early theme park entry at Animal Kingdom the next morning. You might.
We've done it.
You're going to do it, but you're not going to do it every day.
Good nap in the middle, but it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, so there's that. So we have to see about that yet. But yeah, I don't know that evening extended, expanded, extruded. What word are they using? Again, this is like, I know that Disney loves the words like magical and enchanted and stuff like that. But I mean, calling it extended theme park hours or early theme park entry
got a great ring to it. Great marketing material right there.
Something for this.
It's like the opposite team that came up with the names for the annual passes at Disneyland was in charge of naming those things.
Yeah.
They use all the adjectives at Disneyland for their keys. It's like every Disney ship is listed, I think.
Internally, inside the MDE app, they refer to these as Genie Plus hours. I was like, oh God, don't do that.
No.
Okay, please don't do that. That would make things worse. That's not helping. Don't do that. Yeah.
I also like that they picked lightning as the word for the lanes because, I mean, it's not the easiest word in the English language to spell correctly all the time.
I can tell you how many times I've mistyped that while I was working on the book. The funny thing too is, like, with Lightning Lane, I mean, you can get Lightning McQueen as the mascot for that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like for me, as soon as I heard Lightning Lane, my like Lightning McQueen's thing is kapow, right, or kachow. Mm-hmm. I mean, you should be saying ka-ching because it costs money now. I think Disney didn't really think of that one. But
Cars 4, the quest for more money.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Coming to Disney Plus soon, Derek.
Probably.
Exactly. So I mean, there's a lot yet that we have to see. I think that we're not done with all the announcements yet. Like, we still haven't heard about annual passes. Still haven't heard about dining plans. still a lot of stuff to come. So, but I would expect before the end of the month we'll hear more about that.
All right.
Well, that is all the time that we have with you, Len. So take a minute. Thank you so much for joining us, and tell people where they can find you.
Awesome. I am Len at TouringPlans.com. So the website is TouringPlans.com. I also do this podcast called The Disney Dish with Jim Hill, and that's DisneyDish.bandcamp.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us and all the information. I'm sure we'll have to have you back on to explain even more when even more things come out.
When we actually know how it's all going to work.
Yeah, exactly. That way, Michelle and all your team doesn't get phone calls constantly. We just have an episode that we can just send to people. Oh, you don't call me here. Just listen to this episode.
You listen to this.
There you go. And hopefully we can help. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. And Patrons, be sure to go to our Patreon page and check out all the bonus episodes. And be sure to follow us at Rope Drop Radio on all the things. But for Len and Doug, I'm Derek. You've been listening to Rope Drop Radio.